No song today.
No intro song?
No intro song. Don't want to embarrass myself in front of Kris.
All right. Black Sheep Narrative. We are back. And today we've got a special guest for you guys. The one, the only, Mr. Kris Gethin.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
I don't even know, like, there's so many titles that you hold. So many hats you wear. Author, fucking, I don't want to say fitness influencer. I'd say probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the fitness industry. Transformational coach. List goes on. What am I missing?
I just try to keep myself out of trouble. I cannot excel at one thing, so I do a lot of things, and hopefully collectively they'll excel.
Dude, and we were actually talking about that before you came in here. Like, you have so many different things going on. You're successful in everything that you do, which is fucking, it's inspiring, man.
Well, you know what it's like. You have to, if I think my biggest strength is know my weaknesses. So I'm able to surround myself with a lot of really, really good people that I can excel themselves over my limitations, of course. So when you put these people together, it's very easy, I believe, for you to create whatever you want to create, whatever you feel is your passion. Of course, that helps. But when you surround yourself with the same people who just want to win and they want everyone to win, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah. Dude, and I think that's what they talk about. Like, if you want to go far, you go with a team. If you want to go fast, you go alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah.
That's awesome. But for the people that don't know you, and I don't know who that would be because everybody on this podcast should know who Kris Gethin is, but you came from Wales, right? And I want to kind of talk through your story because one post that you put up on Instagram a long time ago that really piqued my interest was a picture of young Kris Gethin at like a concert. I don't know if it was a Henry Rollins concert or something, but you're just this tiny little punk-looking kid.
That was at a rave party.
Was it?
An illegal rave party, yeah.
And here's Kris, just this tiny, scrawny guy. Looks like you're wearing a shirt that's 3 times too big for you. And I was like, man, like coming from Wales, and I didn't even know where Wales was. I had to look it up on a map. I'm like, oh shit, it's over by Ireland, UK. And to where you are today, like what changed from that punk kid, I don't even want to say punk kid, but that young, scrawny kid to where you are today? Like what flipped in your mind?
Well, after I'd raced motocross for 11 years, and that pretty much took up all my life, all my time. And it was injuries that put me into retirement. And because my identity had become this extreme sport for such a long time, I'd lost my identity when I retired. So I turned to drugs and alcohol. And that picture was, probably in the depths of that. So obviously, you're doing a lot of amphetamines, you're going to lose a lot of size. And, the tipping point for me was when I got arrested by the cops and they came to my parents' house, like 4 o'clock in the morning, knocking on the door. I knew, my dad's a pretty tough guy and, he didn't take any shit. And I knew, man, I do not want to disappoint this guy. I do not want to disappoint my family. And that was a tipping point for me. I'd gone to a lot of specialists to deal with a lot of the injuries that I was trying to cope with. And it wasn't until I went for physiotherapy with resistance training that I was alleviated of a lot of those issues. So then I'm getting over the depression that I'm going through at that time because, like I said, I've lost this identity. So I thought, okay, hold on, this is something that makes me feel better. Let me read a little bit more about this. And I was able to retain that content because in school I wasn't able to retain anything. I hated school. And then with that, I thought, okay, well, maybe I want to study this. So I went to college then for 3 years. And during that time, I thought, okay, I'm just going to go all in on this. And after a year and a half of picking up that first weight, I went and competed in a bodybuilding show because I like a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
I don't like, hey, sign up for 20 personal training sessions and let's see where it goes. No. You've got 12 weeks to get in shape. I prefer something like that. So I signed up for a bodybuilding show. Had no idea there was such a thing as tested and untested shows back then. So I competed in an untested show. But I was definitely the smallest there, but I was shredded because I didn't know anything really that much about bodybuilding. 9 weeks out, I just went 0 carbohydrates, like 0, just protein and fiber, basically, So I lost a lot of size, but I got ripped, and I thought, okay, this is something I can do. I didn't like the competitive side on being on stage, but I like the competitive part, getting the lead up to being on the stage.
You just love the day-to-day grind.
Yeah, I love it. My good friend Branch Warren always says that, he didn't get into weight training because he loved bodybuilding. He got into bodybuilding because he loves weight training. And that's the same for me. I'm not too keen on bodybuilding as a sport, you know, getting up on stage, shaving down, putting a tan on, posing. But I love the process. I love the challenge.
So how did you come to the States? What was your idea of coming to the United States?
All right. So at the end of the 90s, I'd been to college for 3 years, had my qualifications. That was my ticket out of Wales, because that's the social circumstances that I was in at the time, and the social circle just wasn't the best for me. So I had to break away because I was too easily influenced. So I used that as my ticket to get out. I worked on cruise liners out of the US, Fort Lauderdale, for 8 months. I started off as a personal trainer on the cruise liners. This is in 99. And then I switched over to massage because I had my massage therapy qualifications, because I saw that the customers were tipping the massage therapist much more than the personal trainers. And I come from a non-tipping background. You know, people in Europe don't tip. So I thought, wow, this is awesome. So I lived off those tips then. And after 8 months, I got off the cruise liners. I met somebody in Australia, went and visited her, and within 24 hours, I had a job in a gym, just you know, spotting people, just gym floor, and you know, putting weights back, etc. And in my spare time, I made these trifold leaflets, and I started competing in natural bodybuilding shows then, because I knew it was such a thing. And I was using my cardio in the morning to put my leaflets through people's doors in the morning, advertising mobile personal training. And I would only offer 12 or 18 week packages, like no pack of 30 or whatever, because I wanted that sense of urgency, because I knew those before and after pictures would be my marketing. So I needed to give the clients a sense of urgency. So I started doing mobile training, people's homes, beaches, parks, etc. And then with the money I earned from that, I purchased my first gym. And while I was at that gym, I thought I want to reach out to more people than the ones that I'm just teaching here. And I started submitting content to magazines to get published, articles to get published. And then about a year later, I started covering the Arnold Classic and the Olympia. I think the first one was in 2000 or 2001 for the Australian Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazine. And I thought, well, I want to do this full time. So then I decided to risk everything, sell everything, move to Venice, California, and see if I could get a contract with Weider International. Yeah. And after 6 months of just pestering them and submitting content, I managed to get a contract as a photographer and a writer.
So you were a photographer too? So you were...
I taught myself writing. So I bought like Merriam-Webster's book on journalistic writing, and I taught myself photography. I had a friend of mine, Gary Phillips, who's a renowned photographer in the bodybuilding industry, that helped me a little bit as well, because I knew it would be so much more convenient to the publisher or to the editor if I submitted article and photography to go with that article, as opposed to trying to pair them up both. So that's the route that I went.
I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
I knew you came over for bodybuilding.com, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's crazy. So, and it's interesting you talk about how you escaped, like you had to. It's almost like you used fitness as therapy, right?
For sure,
because
it still is.
Yeah, absolutely, and we always preach that, and it's very similar in nature to like what we as like combat soldiers, and that's the whole premise behind like a lot of our mission, what we focus on, because to the same aspect, when you hang up your boots, you lose that identity, you lose that. You're going through it right now, man. Mm-hmm.
Getting out of the military.
And you do. It's like you lose that purpose. Like you become so associated with putting that uniform on and going and fighting war, or, you know, protecting the people that stand behind you, that it's like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And a lot of soldiers deal with this like inner turmoil, and then you stack that with PTSD, stuff like that. And the VA is quick to throw medication at you to try and fix everything. And honestly, for me, it's getting in the gym, releasing those endorphins, like definitely noticeable difference in how I feel. Even if I take a rest day, I try and get in the gym, walk on the treadmill a little bit, you know? So it's interesting how that parallels one another. But for you, I had no idea with the cruise liners and all of that stuff. So how did you get in with bodybuilding.com?
So when I was with Flex and Muscle and Fitness, I didn't quite like how some of my articles were edited. It was like watered down. I liked the more hardcore aspect of bodybuilding. And so I decided to publish my own magazine for 2 years, and that was called Kaged Muscle, because while I was in Australia, I taught Muay Thai for a couple of years, and I really loved mixed martial arts. And back then it was referred as caged fighting. So I called the magazine Kaged Muscle, just put the K on there because of my name, Kris. And I loved bodybuilding. So this magazine covered both MMA and bodybuilding. So I published that for a couple of years. And I was doing some freelance work for bodybuilding.com at the time, covering contests and putting some educational content pieces out there. And then Ryan DeLuca, obviously, the founder of BBCom in 2007, asked me if I'd interview for the editor-in-chief position of bodybuilding.com. So I flew up here, fell in love with Boise immediately, because I'm from the country. I really don't do well in cities. And I thought, this is my kind of place. And luckily I got that job, and that's how I ended up in Boise.
Wow. It's full steam ahead ever since.
Yeah. I've loved it here. My hair grew back. It was a very, non-stressful environment. I feel like my cortisol levels come back down. I'm in a nice parasympathetic state. When I'm in Boise, I'm always relieved to be back here.
Yeah.
I love the 4 seasons. I learned to snowboard when I came here. So I love winter. I love the camping in the summer, mountain biking. It's perfect for me.
Yeah. And you talk about overcoming adversity, because when you were at bodybuilding.com, then something happened with your visa, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, my lawyer hadn't extended my visa for some reason. One reason or another, he wasn't allowed to practice after this, that's for sure. So the lawyers at BBCom said, there's something fishy. He's not giving us the right numbers and the codes that we require. So they did some investigation to find that he hadn't extended my visa. So then I literally had 10 days notice to get out of the country.
Dude.
Yeah. And like 4 days after this, I was supposed to go to the Olympia to cover the Olympia, and I thought, well, I'm still going to do it. So I went down to Vegas, covered the Olympia, and then came back and kind of packed what I needed, thinking that I'd get straight back into the country really quick. Because I was like, this ain't my fault. They'll see it's not my fault. But I think I had to go and apply for my waiver like 3 or 4 times. It got shot down every time.
And I'm sure the wait time
is insane. Well, every time that you do submit your waiver and it gets denied, you have to wait another 3 months. Before before you submit again. So that was pretty insane, And I had letters from Weeder, Bob Chick, Dorian Yates, all these people in the industry that were highly regarded, and Simon & Schuster, because I just published an article, a book with them. So I had a lot of backup, but it didn't work. And I've been told that the people at the immigration have more power than the president, where they can just be in a shitty mood one day and they haven't had their coffee and go, "No, you're denied." Because the last time that I showed up, I really pretty much had the same case as I did the first time. They just let me in.
Really?
Yeah.
So how long did it take you in total?
It took about 2 years.
Oh my God.
In total. I didn't come back to live until about 3 years later, 3.5 years later, because at that time I'd started doing work in India. I was working with celebrities over there, personal training them, and started working on a gym franchise over there. So I kept myself busy during that time. Yeah. And I was still doing a lot of work with BBCom. I filmed a video series when I was in India. So I was still working with BBCom while I was kicked out.
And that's the thing, man. Like you don't get kicked when you're down. Like when shit happens, there's a way. Like you just have to push forward. Even if you have to like adjust course and go a different direction, like, you got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
So I admire that about you, man.
Yeah, you got to, because we're all going to have letdowns in life, but the things that we usually complain about is very frivolous.
Right.
We do complain like, that the microphone isn't working properly, the Wi-Fi is too slow, the weather shit, whatever. It's just stupid stuff.
Got kicked out of the country.
Whatever. I'm still alive,
How did you keep your mindset? Because you sacrificed as you talked about, everything to come to the U.S. And now the U.S. is saying, sorry, your visa is expired. You got to get out of the country. And then you go back. How did you keep disciplined and want to keep moving forward? Because I'm sure there had to be a time where you're like, what, am I going to get through this? Like, how did you keep that mindset to keep pushing forward?
I think, well, it was definitely an emotional roller coaster. There's no doubt about that. You know, there's obviously, you know, why me, woe me, second guessing, questioning everything. But then I believe because, much like you guys, I do practice discipline every day. I wake up when it's dark. I'm always in that ice bath in the morning. I'm always hitting a workout regardless how I feel. Of course, if I'm sick, then maybe not. But I think when you practice that discipline, you generally move forward. You know, you don't sit and dwell because you're active, you're moving, you're distracting yourself. So I think that helped a lot, and, the physical output has been everything for me. You know, my pivotal foot will always be in bodybuilding. I'll always do a lot of other things, but my pivot foot is always in bodybuilding because it's so therapeutic. And, you think of, you put a dog in a house, it's going to get anxious. It's going to be barking. It's going to rip the place apart. We're no different. We need to have some type of movement to let off some steam and get that endorphin rush and actually feel better and you're more euphoric. And I think physical movement probably was one of those stabilizers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your visa gets approved again after 3 years that you were out of the country. What's the next step? Where's your mind at? Come back here and start pushing forward again?
Not at that immediate time. I came back over to be at the Olympia and the Arnold Classic, and then I just kind of flew back. So I was flying back and forth to be at those events for bodybuilding.com. But then it was at that time I was speaking to my two previous business partners and co-founders of Kaged about building a brand. So I knew at some point that I would be back in the US. I just didn't know how quickly that would happen. And yeah, about 3.5 years out of being out of the country, I moved back to Boise.
And then Kaged gets open.
And Kaged Muscle it was back then, gets started. So, that's my two business partners and co-founders. They were people that I knew from bodybuilding.com, Brian Rand, the formulator, Michael McLean, who was the COO there as well. So we decided, let's do something a little bit different that hasn't been in the industry, because in a lot of these video series, I was using some brands, but other times I was just putting together raw materials, and that wasn't always logical for the consumer that's watching the video series. So we decided to kind of put something together, because I wanted certain things. I wanted fermented ingredients. Sometimes I wanted organic ingredients. Sometimes I wanted to see an efficacious dose in products. Well, all the time, actually, as opposed to something that's underdosed. And, it was just very difficult to find brands that could do that. Some brands that I was getting tested were testing great, really, really good. But then there's some of the big brands that we've all heard of, they were testing so bad. I was actually putting my hand in my own pocket and getting them tested. When I was in the UK, I was getting some tested. It cost me like £350. Per test, and I was shocked. Some of these people that own these brands were my friends.
Yeah, that's crazy. But you guys shook up the industry. Yeah. When you dropped Kaged, because prior to you guys, I think there was Pre-Gym. It was one of the flagship ones that was accurately dosed and had science behind it. And you came in, and it was like a whole new world for the supplement industry. And it was cool to see that shift within the industry. Like, that's why we came in, because we wanted to offer efficacious doses and have a mission behind it. But like you said, there wasn't many supplement companies out there doing it at the time. And now you've seen that shift within the industry to where you're starting to see more transparency. You're starting to see quality ingredients with the testing, which is, I think it's great.
Yeah, I think people are becoming a little bit more educated now than what they were.
100%.
And, I know people always try to create this conflict of competition between myself and Jim Stepani. Yeah. But Jim and I have actually known each other for many years. We both worked at Weeder together. Whenever we get together, we always have a good laugh about it, because people create these things and you kind of run with it sometimes. But Jim's a great guy, really, really good guy. Mm-hmm. And he really shook the tree when he came into the industry. He got people to think and to understand, look, if you're going to get a scoop that's like 9 grams, then how are you going to get an efficacious dose of all these ingredients in there, And he really did shake up the industry, so I really thank him for that. He did a great job and paved the way for the rest of us. And luckily, like I said, people are becoming a little bit more educated. Not all the time, because, you see how big Prime is selling, you know. But for the most part, I don't mind calling them out. But for the most part, people are starting to ask the right questions now. If I do some seminars, people are starting to ask different questions to what they did 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're seeing it, but it evolves too. And now what's interesting to me is TikTok and, the armchair quarterbacks on TikTok that are experts and some of the stuff that's being spat out there. It's frustrating to watch.
You get used to it though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Only yesterday,
do.
I put up a video of me doing it was a workout. I did a leg workout on Monday, and someone's just giving me crap saying, you shouldn't do box squats with all that weight on your back. It's going to be bad for your spine. I'm like, dude, it's a lightweight, dude. It's lightweight. Don't worry about it.
The risk versus reward. You always hear that.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. But going back to it, so Kris Gethin gyms in India.
Yeah.
You're like Brad Pitt over there. You're like a superstar.
Not quite. No, my clients are like Brad Pitt over there. Not me. Not me.
But how many gyms do you have over there?
We are building our 11th right now.
Yeah, that's huge.
And we got a couple more in the pipeline for next year as well.
I saw. Have you seen pictures of their gyms? Over there? And like the inside, there's one that has like a painted wall of you like breaking through the wall, like the Kool-Aid Man.
That wasn't my idea.
I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, that was that's in Mohali. That's in Mohali. That is. I had quite the surprise when I walked up that stairwell.
Saw that?
Like, me on a Royal Enfield. Yeah, but they did a good job. They did a good job. But luckily we've got some great franchisee partners over there.
Yeah.
And we're like good friends, and everybody again is just wanting to see the country become more educated, create obviously employment over there. But we consider these gyms like academies to teach the trainers to entice their education to stay at the top. And obviously educates the consumer, the clients that come in there, and kind of, bring in more female clientele, because it's definitely a male-dominant country. So we've definitely seen a shift there, which is good. We weren't interested in being like a mass chain and just build loads of gyms and close down along the way. We definitely wanted to focus on quality as opposed to quantity, and I think we've definitely attained that there. It's very different to what you'll find in India generally.
Yeah. Yeah, and the equipment's awesome in the gyms. Like
equipment's great. Yeah, we got mostly like Hammer and Life Fitness. There are some other pieces that I would have loved. Like I love Panatta. Really love Panatta. Yeah, Panatta from Italy. Yes, great equipment. Great equipment. There's a few pieces that I'd really like, but they just don't have the service there that is required. If something breaks down, we want it fixed immediately. And luckily, Life Fitness and Hammer are very, very good at that.
Good.
So you shook up the industry a couple weeks ago, and I'm not going to we won't go down the rabbit hole of it, but you put up a post that you are stepping away from Kaged because your vision has changed.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's not so much like my vision has changed. My vision has always been the same. Yeah. It's like the business had changed, and it was going in a direction that I didn't generally agree with. Like I said, I've always considered myself of integrity, morals, ethics, and I just felt that it was going in a completely different direction to how we'd started that. And not saying anything condescending towards them, everybody's different, much like we could get into a relationship, but the person that we're with, we just don't get on. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with that person, and doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with me. Right. We just don't fit. I don't know if you've read Eckhart Tolle's book The Power of Now, where people have pain bodies, and I felt that we just had pain bodies within the company, and that's just not a good outcome. So it was a long time coming. There's a lot of sleepless nights, and I felt, there's only one way you can truly be happy, but there's loads of ways to make money. Yeah. So I really didn't care about the money. I'll just walk away from that and just follow happiness and working with people that I really appreciate and who respect others. So that's what I decided to do. It's a big call, it's a big ask, but I'm so relieved. I'm so happy.
Are you?
My sleep scores have gone through the roof, so I'm so relieved now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like your baby. I mean, and you got to stay true to yourself, right? Like you have a tattoo on your neck of the Kaged Muscle.
Already getting lasered.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, started getting lasered, and this one here on actually no, this side. As soon as I had that done, I was like, I regret that. So I'm having them both done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but putting ourselves in your shoes, like that had to be a very, like you said, very difficult decision.
Yeah.
Like I put myself like, if I started this and this was my baby, my vision, this is something I'm growing, I'm turning into something, to step away from that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like I said, I had a magazine, Kaged Muscle, had it tattooed.
This
had it on
is
my
your branding.
Yeah.
Like when people look at Kaged, they see Kris,
Yeah.
And when they look at Kris, well, they see everything else, the Kris Gethin gyms. But part of that is they see Kaged.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, this is probably about 2 years coming, and I'd had, many in-depth conversations with people in my inner circle, my wife, my best friends, my business partner, Jag Chima, my father. My father always puts me in the right direction. And they pretty much all said, yeah,
it's time to step away.
Yeah, walk away from this, man. They could tell that I just wasn't feeling myself, and the direction that the company was going and I was going, it was only going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's too, and when I saw that post, I'm not going to say I was shocked, right? But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it was a wake up call. It was like, wow. But I gained even more respect for you as an individual, seeing that post and reading through it, and you keeping your ground, because it's too easy for a business or a company to kind of lose the foundation of which it was built and start going after profits and things like that. And I'm not saying that's exactly what Kaged did, but as an outsider looking in, it you could definitely see it was going a different direction.
Yeah.
And then that original hardcore meets healthy feel that you used to have, right? Mm-hmm. It completely changed, like the branding, everything changed.
Yeah, it was to reach out to a more wider consumer. It wanted to stretch the net out a little bit further. And I've learned a lot from my friend Michael Johansson, who owns Gasp and Better Bodies. We've known each other since 2007. I've gone and stayed with him when he lived in Sweden. He come and stayed with myself and my parents when in Wales. We go back a long way. And what he did with Gasp was just put the roots down further. It's a very hardcore brand. We're aware of that. And Better Bodies wasn't. It was more spread out. Even though it was sold in many more places in Europe, it was sold in a lot of like big chain stores, and they had the female line and all that sort of stuff. It didn't do as well as Gasp, because you'd have that loyal consumer that would always come back. And that's what I really
had
enjoyed.
Their niches dialed in.
Yeah. Because they just kept working on the roots, nurturing those roots, as opposed to branching out. And I felt that Kaged was starting to branch out a little too far, as opposed to keeping that loyal, hardcore following, that niche following. Now, I could be wrong, I could be right, who knows? But I had to do what was true to me, and that was putting the roots down further. Yeah.
But, and you did an awesome job with Kaged, man. Everything that, you accomplished with that company. I don't know if you saw, and again, this is just me and my perception, but I don't know if you saw the post that they put out on Instagram.
Do you know
thanking you.
No. I've been told about it.
Okay.
When I put the post out, I stayed offline for about 3 days.
Oh, I bet. I bet you're being blown up because
my phone.
There were people
insane.
reaching out to me. I'm like, I don't even talk to Kris. I don't even know.
It was insane. It was insane. So I was like, you know what? I'm putting my phone down for about 3 days. So I didn't look. I didn't look at my post. I didn't look at the post that they put out. I understand what they put out, and that's absolutely fine. That's good, It
was a good, respectful post.
Yeah, and and that's what we've got to be. We've just got to be amicable and kind of respect each other in that respect. But I was just absolutely overwhelmed, because like a lot of people told me, if you walk away, that is Kaged. It's going to hurt the brand. And I was like, you know what? They've got a lot of ambassadors. They've got a lot of athletes. I'm sure it'll do well. They're plugged into a lot of places. But the support that I had after that post was just off the hook.
Oh, I believe
off the hook. Everybody wanted to start a business with me, which I was very, very grateful for. Thank you very much. Which is really heartwarming, and just getting so much respect from people in the industry. Some people that I hadn't even spoken to for a couple of years, just reaching out was just unreal. So that softened the blow a little bit. So the emotional roller coaster really went up in my favor after a few days of that, but I still haven't looked back at those posts.
You haven't? Yeah.
Still haven't. I pinned mine, but that's it.
Right.
I still haven't looked through it. My wife did.
Yeah. No, I saw she was in the comment section. It seemed like she was trying to play some damage control.
Yeah.
But on their post, there's like, I forget, 2,500 comments on it. It's huge. And like I said, people see Kaged as Kris, and if you're not there, they're not going to support the brand. I was like, wow, like that's power.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people that said that. You know, someone sent me a message yesterday and said, this is the only Kaged t-shirt I've kept. And it was obviously one that I'd signed at some point. And I'm not asking people to get rid of all their t-shirts and whatnot, but, you know, it's just, that's the kind of messages that I've been receiving.
Yeah, but it shows the power of, and it's everything that you've done for the industry, for the fitness community, you know. It just holds a lot of weight with people, man.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do, isn't it, you know?
Yeah, I'm excited for you. So talking about influencers today, and me and Nick were talking about it earlier. I was like, man, you know, when Kris came up, there was no influencers. There was no, like, you came up because this is you. Like, you're real and you're passionate about this. What feedback do you have for influencers? There's a lot of people out there trying to make a name for themselves. In order to get it to your level, or, you know, up there to where they are a knowledgeable person that can influence others, like what feedback do you have for them?
I think a lot of it is just give what people need, because a lot of time I see, and people reach out to me, and I don't have the formula because I just do what I do, and it tends to stick, is that put something out there that you feel is going to help someone in some way, shape or form. Because someone reached out to me the other day and said, hey, you know, I've been doing this for such a long time, I'm not increasing their followers, maybe the algorithm is, or I've been ghosted, I don't know. But, you know, I had a quick look at his page and I was like, this is all about you. People don't give a shit about us.
It's what you can provide for them.
What you can provide for them, exactly. You know, if you keep posting about yourself, people are like, boring, you know, on to the next. How can you help me? You know, I'm dealing with cravings. I can't sleep at night. I'm dealing with depression. What is it that you can feed to them that would possibly instigate something that would allow them to, you know, to change, to evolve, to move forward? And I'd say that's it. And obviously it has to be a cadence. You know, if I didn't have to be on socials, I probably wouldn't. Yeah. But you have to have a cadence out there, you know, of regularity, much like, you know, watching an old school TV show. You're going to come back the same week, the same time for that continuation. And you've got to do that online, you know, try to stick to the same times and put out continuation of content. I haven't been that good about it myself recently, but I'm probably better at telling people than doing it myself. Yeah. Because I'm like, God, I can't do all these things. People say, oh, you should start up as TikTok. I don't have time to start a TikTok. My wife started one for me. I don't even have the app on my phone. You know, so you have to find, I guess, where that niche is, where you can put your time and effort and put stuff out there that can really help people, get people thinking. Like one of my good friends, Mike Rashid, very good at that. Very good. He's putting out a lot of in-depth content that may not give you the answer, but it'll get you thinking and finding that answer. He's really, really good at that. So I suggest people go and check out Mike.
Yeah, he's a badass.
Yeah.
So you're a big proponent of, do you call it biohacking, like red light therapy, ice baths?
You talked about the plunges.
And you talk about the plunges, and it's becoming more mainstream because the #1 podcast in the world, Joe Rogan, he's a huge proponent of the ice baths.
Got the same bath as
and
me,
the saunas and whatnot. And sometimes for people like coming from a military background, #1 thing I say, if they're in anxiety or depression, hey, do you go to the gym? Like, do you work out on a regular basis? How's your food? How is your sleep? And sometimes that's not even enough to get their mind right. And for the biohacking, like, how has that helped you in your life?
Helped me in a huge way. So back in 2014, I was diagnosed with mold toxicity. I didn't know what was going on with me.
Mold?
Mold toxicity, yeah. Because like I'd exhausted everything that I knew, and I asked a lot of people around me what this could possibly be. I just wasn't sleeping at night. I was sleeping about 3 hours a night on average, and I had that, you know, hardcore discipline mentality. I'm still going to outwork you. I'm still going to outtrain you. I'm not going to complain. I'm just going to push through. And you know, in all honesty, I was an asshole. Like I was not a good person to be around. Someone would stare at me for more than 5 seconds. I'm like, what's up? You know, because I was on edge. I was on so much edge. And I was like, this is not me. I was using that to my advantage in the gym because I was training like an absolute animal then because I was so angry. And I finally got referred to somebody in Oldsmar, Florida, called Dr. Spanaug. And he ran a lot of tests on me, like 62 blood tests we did on the first day. Hair follicle, brain scan, stool samples, urine samples, everything. And he went through all my symptoms to the T. It's like the guy had lived in my head for the last few years. And he said it's mold toxicity that I'd got from an apartment in Mumbai because it's very humid there. I was right next to I could see the ocean. So I'd wake up in the morning, the floor would be wet, and all that damp and the mold in there had that. It has different effects on different people, and it really affected my mental state and my sleep. So I stayed at that clinic for 6 weeks. He would have had me there for 6 months because the detox can't be harsh because your body will recycle.
How do you come off of it?
So there's a lot of things. Like I had to do colonic hydrotherapy 5 days a week, had to go on a very low protein diet to ensure that my liver and kidneys could flush and detox. Had to do IVs 5 days a week with ALA, glutathione, big concoctions.
Did the mold toxicity, did it mess with like your liver enzymes and stuff?
Yeah,
like
elevated liver enzymes for sure.
Oh, Jesus.
And I manage my liver enzymes pretty well now. And so after the 6 weeks, I continued with my own kind of detox protocol. That's one of the reasons why I'm in a sauna every day to help detox. I'll take binders like chlorella. Every now and again, it'd be more of a harsh, like an activated charcoal. I have to be careful of that because that will detox and bind minerals as well. And just help with that these detoxification pathways. But I went down a rabbit hole then and I realized, man, I got mercury in my mouth. That was leaching, and that's a neurotoxin. So I had to get all that removed. And, I just really went down the rabbit hole and found that you can find molds, especially in the US, in a lot of grains, because if they don't dry the grain immediately in that vat, it creates mold. And the levels in Europe are very different to the levels in the US. Europe could go, that's not safe, and America will go, we'll take it, and then we consume it. And you'll find coffee is probably the most contaminated product with mycotoxins. And then you got like dark chocolate, wine, things like that. So I just looked where mold toxicity could be lying and just really changed my diet. I started then going organic, grass-fed, wild-caught, and it's really, really helped me. Of course, I can sleep better now. I'm a much better person to be around. And I've just really focused on decreasing my biological age now. In the last 7 years, I've had my biological age tested. I've been able to decrease it every year, by reducing the inflammation and the burden that I was living with. So I've really gone down that rabbit hole. And, to the ice baths. The ice baths I love for mental stability more than anything. Of course, it helps mobilize fatty acids. It helps brown the fats and helps with blood sugar stability. But the main reason why I do it every day, making sure I go down to my neck, to tone the vagal nerve, is the mental stability. I feel so much better. If I go away and I don't have access to cold for a month or so, I don't feel as good, nowhere near.
Yeah, it's good for if you submerge yourself past your neck. It's also good for like the thyroid gland.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's
interesting.
Like,
there's always new studies coming out, and some of them frustrate the hell out of me because there's no like meta-analysis, and we can make any study to say anything we want to. And now they're saying that ice baths are like detrimental to building muscle. That it actually stunts the growth of it. And
yeah. It depends. Like if you're to do it straight after your workout and you're going to be there for quite a while, then it can blunt the hormetic response. But I just do it first thing in the morning. I get in there and then I train a couple of hours after, and that's fine.
3 minutes? How long are you going?
1 to 3 minutes.
1 to 3 minutes.
Usually my 3 minutes is my sweet spot. But after I came back from India, I was sick for a while, so I thought I don't want another stressor because I had to start shooting this video series the first week being sick. So I couldn't delay that. And I thought, I don't want to have an ice bath as well. So after about 2 weeks, I started to get back in, and I started with a minute, and I scaled back up to 3.
Yeah.
So what's a typical day? I know it's probably crazy, but what's a typical day look like for you right now?
So this morning, a typical day, I got up, I did my cardio in my garage in the Stairmaster, did red light therapy, got in a sauna for 30 minutes, jumped in the ice bath for 2 minutes, I was at the dentist at 8 o'clock this morning, and then here. And usually, you know, after I've done, I'll meditate for about 5 minutes as well, you know, just to set positive intention for the day and try to get rid of any clutter that may be stressing me. And then, you know, I try to get through, at the moment, I have 2 hours for phone calls or podcasts in the morning before I start filming. And then when I start filming this video series that I'm doing at the moment, I usually then have about 2 hours to try to get on top of my emails and WhatsApp messages and whatnot. And then I try to have about an hour and a half to unwind in the evening, you know, spend time with my wife. I lie on what's called a PEMF mat, pulsed electronic magnetic field therapy. So I lay on there, maybe watch a bit of TV, read a book for about 30 minutes before I go to bed. I go to bed at 7:30. I read for 30 minutes. Yeah. And then I'm out at 8. You know, that works for me. You know, that helps with my circadian rhythm. My cortisol levels, I feel are lower. And, you know, I feel that I assimilate my food so much better than I used to. I don't eat as much, but I assimilate it more efficiently because I'm in a state of rest and digest, you know, as opposed to in that sympathetic state where you're in that fight or flight, your body just doesn't break down the foods as efficiently. So I feel if I'm more calm and, you know, I'm not stressed, I'm not rushed, I'm present when I'm eating my meals, you know, I'm not scrolling or anything, I'm able to digest and assimilate so much easier.
You're on a whole nother level.
It works. But I love it.
My wife,
you know, I'd happily say that I'm obsessed about it. You know, I love that. I love that.
I need to be more obsessed. My wife's like, I don't sleep. And she's like, you know, and when I wake up, I'm like, wow, fuck, my back hurts. My back hurts, goddamn it. And she's like, we need a new mattress. Like, we've had the same mattress for 8 years. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm the type of guy, I'm going to roll with it until the wheels fall off. She made me go get a new mattress. And, man, the last 2 nights I've had the best sleep ever.
Yeah, there you go.
But
See, that's the one thing that I'll invest in a lot of money, and that's a good bed.
Yeah.
A good
bed. It was a big investment. I was like, Jesus, this is a lot of money. And that's all I kept playing in my head, but it's so worth it. Like, I'm 2 nights in and amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Has it got a wooden frame or metal frame?
So we swapped out. We had like an entire bed frame that had the wood planks and stuff. We got rid of that. Yeah. We just had the metal frame, and it like doesn't move. It's like a stiff bed. Like you get on it. Like we got rid of the nice bed frame and everything. It's just the mattress on a box spring on the metal.
Okay.
Frame. It's amazing.
All right.
Love it.
Do you want me to give you bad news?
Oh boy, here we go.
So the one thing that I'm conscious of, and you may think I'm a bit woo-woo, is like the reason why I have this bum bag all the time. It's not because I'm a musclehead. This is like an EMF blocking fanny pack. What? Yeah, so I'm very conscious of a lot of electronic magnetic field therapy, you know, non-native EMFs. So if we have a lot of metal around us, like I had a building biologist come by my house. People in the biohacking industry will know this guy, Brian Hoyer, his name is. Yeah. And he came and tested the house for all the dirty electricity, blah, blah, blah. And the bed can act like an antenna, you know, the metal can act like an antenna, and you can create a lot of dirty electricity. So I have like an EMF reader in my house so I can test where there's a lot of EMF because I'm very conscious about my sleep. I want my sleep to be the best. Yeah. So that's one thing that I consider. You know, it's like I've had all the metal taken out of my teeth, except for this, the gold, and I'm conscious that that is an antenna, but I'm like, you know what? I like the look of it. I'll have a bit of balance. You know.
And for people that are listening, because they're probably like, oh, fuck, I got to throw out my mattress now. Like, I got to do all this stuff. Is there something that they can do? Like, what would you suggest one thing that they can start with? Because they hear the red light therapy, they hear the cold plunge. Like, what would you suggest them to do just to start off with?
Well, with the bed, you can have an earthing mat. So you can lie on that earthing mat, so at least you're grounded at the same time. Because if I hold my EMF meter and have my phone here, that it goes all the way up. But if I take my shoes and socks off and do the same and stand on the grass, now the meter goes down because it's penetrating through me instead of into me. It's getting earthed, you know. So you can have an earthing mat, you can have your bed earthed. That's another way. But you know, I do the red light therapy mostly during the winter because I'm not getting access to, you know, the restorative red rays during like the summer at sunrise and at sunset. So you can go out and get sun. You can take your shoes and socks off, earth yourself once a day. As far as the cold therapy, you don't have an ice bath, just do a cold shower for 5 minutes. Just make sure that you do get your neck, You want to get your lymphatic nodes, so your inguinal nodes, your occipital nodes underneath your armpits and your groin, on your head, etc. You can start with that. I wear what's called Ra Optics blue light blocking glasses a couple of hours before bed because I don't want that blue light penetrating my retina, raising cortisol and not allowing melatonin to release. So I'll wear them, but just stay away from screens. That's another thing you can do. I have light bulbs in my house, yellow light bulbs downstairs that are non-flicker, and I have red upstairs, so it looks like a brothel upstairs in my house, because I don't want to wake up in the night and that's stimulating me, because like I said, I'm very protective of my sleep because I suffered so bad with not having any sleep for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of people look up to you. Who do you look up to? Who influences you?
It's somebody that isn't really in the bodybuilding industry. Number one, I'd say it's my father. He's definitely one that I look up to, and Henry Rollins, who was
Black Flag.
Yeah, Black Flag. So I first saw Henry in '92 at Reading Festival, and that just blew me away. That inspired me because this guy looked like a freak, and it's as if he didn't even notice that the crowd was there. He was just bleeding on stage. Not literally. But, that blew me away because he was just such an imposing big guy. And I was a pretty skinny fella back then. I was like, wow, wasn't expecting that. And then I saw him many times after that, either in his band or on stage at spoken word. I've met him a couple of times and, read all of his books, seen the movies. And like, that guy's just a workhorse. And that really inspires me a lot. He's got a podcast, he's got a radio show. He's been in movies. He's got his own record label. This guy is just relentless. And when he goes on tour, there is not a day off. He's just at it. And the guy's like 60 years old now.
He's a maniac. I love it. I love it. His story of getting into Black Flag is also ridiculous.
I was so lucky. Yeah, it's just complete luck.
Yeah.
They just said, you're crazy. Get on stage.
Be our singer. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were getting rid of their one singer.
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
Yeah, so that was his ticket out of working at a Häagen-Dazs, I think, at the time, to go on a road in a band.
He worked at Häagen-Dazs?
Yeah.
Scooping ice cream?
He said he would do it again. I forget, what does he say? Minimum wage. He would be a minimum wage. He's like a minimum wage guy or something like that.
He still is to that day, because he's a very tight guy. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do business. He'll fly economy.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I respect the money. I've worked so hard for this. And he said he became like a feral animal when he was on the road with Black Flag. So he was a nasty guy. Mm-hmm. But he said, so I have to respect this money. I had to, go through a lot of hurt to get this. So he's not going to blow it on business class flights, even though he can afford it for sure.
How do you not stretch yourself too thin? You have your hands in a lot of different pots. And we talk about the biohacking and like grounding yourself and doing the meditation, but like it seems like to make a successful company, you have to put all your chips into one thing. How did you not stretch yourself too thin for doing everything and feeling like I might be doing too much?
It's definitely a struggle, for sure. I deal with anxiety because of it. Because I feel so bad when I feel bad that I have to explain myself every time. When someone, says, hey, can we get on a call? And I'm like, yeah, it'll be 3 weeks from now at this time. Can we talk then? And like, what? Just message me when you've got 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't have 5 minutes. Because if I do say yes to everybody, then I don't have my downtime in the evening. My downtime in the evening and spending that time on myself in the morning is very important. I can be stretched thin throughout the day. And I'm one of those people that does deal with anxiety, I guess, in a good way, where I cannot sleep unless I've finished that last email at night. I have to get it done. So I wake up with this kind of anxiety, and I do a lot of, I guess, multitasking. If I'm on a Stairmaster this morning, I'm answering emails. I'm getting on top of things. If I'm not meditating in the sauna, then I'm getting on top of messages in there. I've got it in airplane mode because it's an infrared sauna and I can penetrate the EMFs even deeper, So it's a lot of multitasking, but learning to say no a little bit more than saying yes, which I used to do all the time. And, last year I went on a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat, and that really helped ground myself as well. That's probably one of the most hardest and most rewarding things I've ever done. I've gone overseas and done plant medicine journeys, you know, in Costa Rica and whatnot. And I don't think anything was profound as that, because it allowed all your thoughts to come to the surface for you to, I guess, acknowledge and try to be in a state of equanimity. And it's tough, so tough, because we're so used to distraction and noise and sight. Where there you can't make eye contact, you can't write, you know, you can't read. You know, you're just meditating from morning until night, and that is it. And you're fasting 18 and a half hours a day. That wasn't so bad, but the rest of it was very, very difficult. But it allowed me to come out and reflect on that and just think, whoa, just be. It's fine. You know, so I just try to be as much as I can, and I'll spend, like I said, a good 30 minutes minimum reading at night, and that's like my escape, and that's my relaxation time. So I feel that's where my balance kind of lies now.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because going back to kind of the military thing, obviously the studies are coming out from Johns Hopkins University with plant medicine with psilocybin mushrooms. There's big proponents like Aaron Rodgers just came out talking about his ayahuasca journey, as well as he just did the underground no light. And everyone's up in arms like, what is he doing? And for soldiers getting out of the military and dealing with PTSD, and the pharmaceutical companies pushing anti-anxiety, antidepressant, where it's just like a Band-Aid for actually curing what's ailing you. Yeah. And I think that it needs to be pushed more. It needs to be, and I think it is coming to the surface finally. But I mean, shit, with the military especially, it's like, here's some more drugs. Here's more Band-Aid for you. And you never get to the root of what's actually causing your depression.
Sure. Yeah, the crazy thing is, when you take a lot of antibiotics over time, or if you're consuming anything that's going to disturb your gut microbiome, that inflammatory response eventually can lead to a chemical imbalance in the brain. So that could actually work against you. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, so don't quote me, but it could possibly work against you. Like you said, if that is just a Band-Aid. And my a friend here, Marissa Webner, who is a meditation instructor, she's also a ketamine clinician as well. And she deals with a lot of people who have had PTSD, and it really, really helps them. You know, ketamine therapy has been very, very popular.
Absolutely. Yeah, my buddy, he was in the Rangers, he was a sniper. And he just started a nonprofit organization, Mental Joe Apparel, and that's what they do. They do ketamine therapy, and they use the profits from the sales of the apparel to help soldiers who you know, are severe PTSD. And so they do ketamine, they do the microdosing of the mushrooms and stuff like that. And they say the same thing. It's been huge success, and that's not just even for soldiers, right? It could be people who have anxiety disorders, things like that. So,
and you know, a lot of people in Silicon Valley as well use it to help it for their cognitive performance. They'll do microdosing of LSD and microdosing of psilocybin. Psilocybin is a little bit more creative, and the LSD is a little bit more
direct
focus. Okay, I need focus now. I need to edit this piece of content and not get distracted.
Goddamn Silicon Valley.
Yeah, the studies that are coming out, especially the Johns Hopkins study about psilocybin mushrooms, is absurd. With addiction and PTSD, it's great.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it's coming to the surface. So, I mean, in the military, it's alcohol, you know, drowning yourself because it's legal. You know, you can't, these soldiers and airmen, they can't do that kind of stuff. And, you know, going to the doctor, the VA doctors or the doctors on base, they're just prescribing you antidepressants.
Right. And most soldiers find that doesn't help, and then they start to self-medicate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And then you see what the rise of suicide rates, you know, as you do, big thing, Mission 22. Yeah. With 20, it's supposedly 22 soldiers, or
could be much more.
22 veterans a day take their lives. Which the studies are coming out that there's actually more, but now there's more avenues to go through. Like without the antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, that's not doing anything for these people. You know. Yeah. So, Kris, where can people find you online?
It's best to just go to my Instagram, Kris Gethin. You know, I'm on there for the most part. You know, there's obviously several places people can find me, but that's probably the easiest one, KrisGethin.
Perfect.
And you're coming out with a new video series? that you're filming right now?
Yeah, I've got a video series that I'm filming at the moment. It should hopefully be out by August, maybe. You know, there's a lot of editing that goes into one of those bad boys. I have the easy job, I think, compared to the editors. And so they'll come out in June 3rd. June 2nd, I'm guest posing in a show. I haven't guest posed since 2009, so it'll be interesting to see.
You doing the Idaho Cup?
No.
Or the Muscle Classic?
Muscle Classic, yeah. Myself and Mike O'Hearn are guest posing there. So that's kind of...
I didn't know you were doing that.
Yeah, it was kind of kept pretty low, but that's kind of given me the sense of urgency to kind of get in shape and motivation, I guess, through this video series. And then as soon as that finishes, I head to the UK. I'm speaking at a biohacking event in London. And I think the next thing I got is another biohacking summit in Amsterdam. And then I'm going to go to India for 2 months as well to work with another celeb over there.
Hell yeah.
That's the life, man.
And then I'm going to Colombia to get stem cells because I'm falling.
Oh, we didn't even touch. That was something we wanted to talk about.
No, the stem cells. Yeah.
Oh, well,
yeah,
next time.
You can touch on it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, well, I've had it done a couple of times, and it's just helped me no end. You know, it hasn't been a cure because I'm not really slowing down. I'm still hitting it hard, but it really, really helps. You know, especially when I had that tricep surgery.
Yeah.
You know, when I had, because for about a year, I was probably in 70% discomfort. And now I'm in about 30% discomfort.
Wow.
Yeah, so it really, really does help. So
why won't they legalize it here, do you feel?
They do, but it's a different way. You know, they won't allow like embryonic stem cells to be harvested like over a 2-week period as they do here. In the US, it's like 24 hours. So, you're not going to get the efficacy of those stem cells overseas. Just so many regulations here. But it's the same in the UK, same in a lot of other countries.
But you go to South America, Colombia?
Yeah, Colombia, yeah. So, a lot of these places are actually owned by Americans, but because they can practice in Panama, in Mexico, in Jamaica, etc., that's the best way of doing it. And it's a lot cheaper doing it that way than doing it in the US.
Yeah. Because you had a full tricep tear?
Yeah,
separation?
68% came off the bone. And I just had a lot of MRIs done when I was in India. And I found out that I got an ACL tear and a meniscus tear. And I had surgery on this shoulder, but I've got a supraspinatus and infraspinatus tear here as well.
So have you done stem cell for all those injuries? Or you're going to?
I'm going to, yeah. I've had it in my tricep, and I did have it in the shoulder because I've got an anchor in there, but I've got 2 more tears in there that are different now. And I don't know how I do these things. I got quite a high pain threshold, so sometimes I do these things. And I have no idea. Yeah, no idea. But the leg doesn't bother me. So Caleb Reddin told me no sprints, nothing lateral like playing tennis or whatever, because then it could pop. So that tear could completely come off. So I'm just careful of that. But in a gym, I don't have any issues. It's only if I run downhill for a duration of time I get it.
Start to hear it.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Just for my essay, because I'm interested, what's a book recommendation? You say you read the 30 minutes every night.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm reading Being Superhuman by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's got another great book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It talks about how our thoughts become us, and with the emotionals attached to it, those neural pathways create feelings of anxiety or stress based on our past, which becomes and controls our now. So really, really enjoy that book. And the other one that I'm reading is called Mindhunter. I guess there's a TV series about this. I didn't know that, but I was reading it last night, and I heard there's a TV series, so I'm reading that book as well. So I try to read something a little bit more relaxing, and I find that kind of relaxing, would you believe it? And something a little bit more educational and thought-provoking earlier in the day.
I ended on that.
Yeah, dude. You mentioned it earlier that your schedule is so tight and you have so many things going on. So we appreciate you coming on.
Oh no,
finding the time to squeeze us in, man.
Of course,
man.
It
means
We're here
a lot.
in Boise.
Yeah,
it's rude not to.
Absolutely, brother. But for the Black Sheep Narrative, so we made a custom shirt. I'm going to show it on the screen here for Kris and being our first official, big time guest. Mm-hmm. We've got a couple more that we're going to have autographed, and basically. Just watch the video, throw a comment in the section below why you deserve the shirt, and we're going to select some winners and ship them out to you guys.
Yep.
All right.
That's a badass shirt.
Thank you.
Badass shirt.
Yeah. Thank you, man. All
It's
right.
that trash polka, you know?
Yeah, trash polka is great, man. Yeah.
We had to research
Got it
it.
everywhere, yeah.
It took me a while to figure. I was like, "What type of style tattoo is that?" We were searching, and we found it. And someone left a Facebook comment on one of your posts, like, "I love that trash polka style." I was like, "There it is."
Ah, interesting. Wow, you did your research.
Yeah, we had to, man. We had to do some digging.
Originated out of Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, it's badass, man.
Yeah, it is. But thanks a lot, Chris, for coming on.
Appreciate it.
It was awesome.
Pleasure's all mine.
All right, people. If you love the episode, you get something from these, like we say, please just drop us a like, drop us a subscribe, share it. We appreciate you guys. Black Sheep Narrative out.
Out.
Out.